So, good morning. Another day with COVID expanding in many areas, and in other areas, things calming down. So, yesterday, I shared out this sort of message, which was delivered to someone who was getting ready to do, for the first time, an in person visit out on a patio. And we talked about what it could be if we had a staff that was supportive, if we had people inside and staff family member who were forming a team and realized when somebody's living with dementia, this isn't just like COVID and we haven't visited. When that's the case, there are so many options available. But this is significantly different. So we're still talking about now a community where COVID either has not happened or it's resolved. And the rule is if that's happening, people have the option to start having visits, one-on-one visits, socially distancing, maintaining face covers, but that can start happening. That's the guidelines. Now, of course, in my limited opinion, I think we're still missing the boat completely at highlighting people living with dementia. It's sort of like, again, I'm not saying these are like children, but the ability to comprehend and understand what is happening and to live unsupported, it's not possible. It's what happens when somebody develops dementia. They need support. They need people who appreciate what they can do, what they can't do, so that things work well. So now let's talk about a community that isn't getting it, didn't get it the whole way, did a lot of social isolation, and now is very reluctantly moving forward on this, which actually sounds pretty much like what this message is all about. What can and should family members do? Well, there are repeated reports that we're getting that anyone who can't follow the rules, who doesn't maintain social distancing, isn't going to be allowed to do visits. So what that means, now we're not talking about family members who can't do it. We're talking about people who are living with dementia who can't do it. So in those cases, it may actually take ombudsman support. It may take regulators identifying, hang on here, we need to do our very best effort at allowing these things to occur and supporting their occurrence. So as a family member, I might say, I understand my mom has a really difficult time not doing touching. Mom has always been a connector. She's always loved to connect, and she will connect with anyone. And I suggest when she sees me, she's really going to want to connect with me. So I'm going to ask that we try this. Because from what I'm hearing, you still have people mostly not interacting with each other and mostly staying alone. And from what I'm aware of from my conversations with you in my visits, attempted visits online with her and on the phone with her, which weren't hugely successful because of her inability to comprehend language that well, and not really able to attend to me that well when I was either just a voice or a face on a screen. That didn't work very well before. I think when she sees me in person, that might or might not work. I'm not sure how she perceives me. But what I'm going to say is, could we at least try to get us in a seating situation where there will be things that would make it awkward or difficult for us to get really close. However, it will be very possible for me to reach my hands out with gloves on them if need be, and with my mask on and with body cover on. I suggest that I wear a body cover over what I have on in case she does, and perhaps you could help her put one on. Or maybe not. I don't know what she'll tolerate. I suggest that she probably wouldn't tolerate a mask. She hasn't so far. I am willing to take those risks. I understand she has been COVID-free and your unit has been COVID-free. I have been in self-isolation and you've done my temperature and you've checked all that. This is a risk that's worth it to me. And if I need to seek more assistance from legal support, I may have to do that, but this is my willingness to take that risk. I'm not asking anyone else to take the risk. But what I want to do is offer my hands and a connection with my mom across the sideways of a table. I want to be present, and I'm willing to work with you, but I want us to recognize if she isn't able to not touch, I want us to be prepared for her need to touch. It's part of her and who she's always been, combined with her dementia, combined with a really long time of not having someone she likes or even someone to touch in many ways. Because from what I've heard, there have been medications used to try to help her not touch, not go, not do. And I understand that you felt compelled to do that by virtue of the regulations, and you didn't have the staff awareness or support to do something different or the training. I get that. I'm not being accusatory. I just want to move forward with something that makes sense. I think there is no black and white here, guys. These are shades of gray. And I think unless we start having really serious, meaningful conversations, these are people's lives that will never be given back. These are months that have not happened. And yes, I most certainly appreciate the risk of COVID, but I don't think everybody appreciates the risk that happens when people don't get a chance to live. People have been essentially imprisoned in cells. And for some people, they were okay with that. It worked out. But part of that was because staff were incredibly supportive. Staff took that risk. Who is someone else to tell me what my risk profile should be and who I should care more about or less about? If I acknowledge I get it, and I'm willing to use those things that you say, you know what? Tell me how it puts everyone at risk. Help me understand that better. Because that was the comment, it puts everyone at risk. Tell me how. Because what I'm saying is I'm putting on fresh, I'm covering myself. If she touches my hands, she has been COVID-free. I have been COVID-free. The people around have been COVID-free. I acknowledge her touching me. I'm covered. And I put the covering on fresh. It's not a contact. It is not a contact virus. It is a respiratory virus. And if after we do this, I remove everything I had on and my mom washes up or is assisted to wash up with what she touched with, how are they spreading it to other? I mean, so what I'm here, one person gets COVID and they spread it to other residents. The question I'm asking you, I don't have COVID. I mean, I am also covered from sharing my COVID, and I've been in self-isolation. That fear that you're describing is fear, not fact. I'm not walking into this having COVID. I am covering myself in all the ways that COVID would be spread. The risk is for me giving COVID to her. And then what we're indicating is in the building, people are still being isolated. People are still staying in their rooms. There's no common dining. They're not moving into that mode. And even if they were, they're moving into common dining, maintaining social distance, maintaining those. So the way COVID spreads is when people are not covering here and not washing here and not protecting themselves, and they're interacting without being aware. There's a lot of awareness here. So I'm not saying you should if you don't want to. I am saying I think sometimes this fear of COVID is really outweighing the reality of what we're looking at. This isn't a high risk situation that's being described. It's very low risk. The grocery store is a much higher risk situation. And until people start really respecting the mask thing, that's also high risk. So this is where I stand, and this is what I'm saying. I think it's time to reevaluate some of the guidelines that were established for people who don't have dementia. And even within the role of dementia, people have such varying abilities. Let's look at people's abilities and look at their needs and look at how to create a care plan that's person-centered. And the person that we're talking about is every single person involved. Staff are going in and out of community, home, caring, coming back. It's the way we're making this system work. We don't have the luxury of having staff having caregivers for their families so that when they leave this work site, they don't have to go do things to help their family survive. This is a bigger question than one person with one visit, but one person in one visit is how it all starts. So till tomorrow, talk to you again soon. Sorry I stirred the pot, but it's about time we start talking about this, because COVID is not going anywhere until we start changing how we act, think, and react. Or maybe we should respond. Anyway, take care.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teepa's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.